Hi guys, I want to provide my point of view of the assignment we developed, teaching strategies and activities, and how these strategies can be affected by different factors. In the assignment we did, the teacher gave us some prompts, for example, how community and school factors can affect teaching strategies. And after doing some research, I can say that it's a very important factor that highly affects the teaching strategies and some activities that the teacher normally try to do. And starting with community and school factors, this is very complex because in our education system is not, as we all know, is not the best. We as students sometimes doesn't have the best opportunities or all the resources that they would like to have. And as we also were discussing in the morning, this last session with our teacher, sometimes the social status that the students have is sometimes affects more than it should, and it conditions sometimes the class. And also we have classroom factors. Actually, I don't know how well equipped are private schools, but I know the conditions in public schools and they are not really good. Actually, they don't have any technological equipment, and the teacher just does the best they can with the things they have, with the resources they have. And that affects because, for example, if let's start with some random teaching strategy. For example, trying to do an assessment, and maybe you are gonna ask to take some copies or something like that, to get some copies of a worksheet. And sometimes the students even have how can I say this? The resources their parents, their families, they don't have a lot of money, and all the activities that involve buying or spending some money in some material, it's gonna be a problem. So that's an issue. And also, when we're trying to give some instructions, as we are also discussing in the morning, maybe the status of each student is going to condition how well they can follow the instructions. So we as a teacher just we have to do our best, because in many situations we are not going to have all the resources we would like to have, but still we have to do we have to give the best of us. So I would like to know what do you think, guys, about these initial points of view I'm giving you.
Hello everyone, I'm going to give my opinion about the assignment of this week, which is teaching strategies and activities. I think that as teachers, the best we can do for our students is to look for the best strategies and activities in order to help them to improve in their learning. I think that it is hard work to look for the strategies and activities which will adapt to the situations that are living. And something that I like about Nelson's opinion was the example that he gave us about the resources, that not everybody has the best resources, and that's true. As teachers, sometimes we will face these situations, and that's why we had to be prepared for them. one strategy that I like and I agree is the strategy of knowing our students, because we must know our students. Not everybody has the same economic situations, and the best we can do is to know them and the situations they are living in order to help them to keep learning and keep motivated learning. And another strategy that I really like is the one in which teachers tell us to work in groups or in pairs, because these help students to help between each other, to learn between each other also, and to keep motivated as well. I think that being a teacher is hard work, because we have to constantly be looking for strategies and activities. It's not just going there and start talking. We have to give our best, as Nelson said, and that's true. That was my opinion. Thank you.
So to continue talking about strategies, now that I've mentioned some of the ones she liked, there was, in the PowerPoint presentation that Mr. Douglas uploaded, there was a list of 10 teaching strategies that every teacher should use in primary school. He said it was not only for primary school, that it was for all levels, but I found number 10 really interesting, and it said, take the time to teach students basic principles in second language acquisition. And then he added, teach them principles, information regarding what learning and acquire a second language means. For example, the time they will need to spend learning, the different abilities we can develop, how we can use language depending on the person we're talking to, etc. What is interesting for me about this is that not every teacher talks about this to students, and it is actually really helpful. Why? Well, I have experienced this myself. In 2018, I enrolled in some French classes, and I remember during the first week, our teacher, because it was not only me, it was, like 4 more people, and he told us, you know how a kid and you guys, adults, can acquire a second and third language more quickly, properly, and purely. I think it was the words he used. I don't remember, but that was the question, and everybody was like, no. And I was just in the beginning of this program, and he started talking about the age of acquisition, and telling us some strategies that we can use to, acquire the language quicker, better pronunciation, better grammar skills. Some strategies, it was like listen to music and repeat, or search for dialogues in French and repeat what they're saying to acquire pronunciation, to understand the structures and stuff like that. Strategies we can use to improve, our language level. And I didn't understand what he was talking about, especially in the part of the age of acquisition and some other stuff he mentioned. But after I saw this in psychopedagogy, I think it was, I started to understand. And at that moment that I didn't know anything, it was actually, it kept me motivated. And I actually, I remember grabbing those strategies and ideas he told us and putting them into practice, and there were good results. So the question I have for you guys, I don't know if anyone has thought about this, is why don't teachers use this method if it can help increase students' motivation? Because I have never seen so much, when you enter a language class, or you enroll in a language course or whatever, I haven't seen many teachers talk about this. I mean, I don't know how public schools in our country work. I had the privilege to be in a bilingual school. So when I was in a bilingual school, mainly in the first years in kinder, second until third grade, I remember my mom always, when she had meetings with the teacher, they say, you can do this and do this I think there were tips or strategies, so she can, acquire better the pronunciation. And blah, 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 blah. There were many examples. And my mom actually did it, and it was nice, and it helped me a lot. But I have asked some of you after reading this presentation, I've asked some of you that I know that you were in public schools, and I have asked some of my neighbors, and they say that English class in their schools were just like another class. The teacher just went into the class and good morning all, and today we're gonna see the verb to be, and that's all. They didn't give you strategies or tips or talked about you how humans can acquire other languages. So that's why students were like, oh, this is boring, this is so boring, this is so difficult, I will never talk with an English accent correctly, or I will never be understood by Americans or whatever. And it's actually, and now I'm analyzing this stuff and not analyzing the strategy. I think we teachers, we should use it because it's actually really helpful. There might be some students that might not want to hear this or then don't care at all, but they might be a beautiful soul that might hear us and might want to, know more about this and to acquire a better language, better language skills depending on the language they are learning. In this case, we assume it's all in English, but maybe they are learning another Italian, Portuguese, whatever. So that's my opinion about this strategy. I think we should use it more. We should talk about it, and it's really interesting. It doesn't matter if students don't pay attention to us, but I think it will be great for them to know this extra information. Maybe there's someone who is interested in acquiring, the language accurately, to talk accurately and fluent, and all that stuff. Thank you. That was my opinion.
Hi. As future teachers, I think we have to be prepared to any kind of situation, either positive or negative situation we could encounter during the teaching process. We have to be prepared, and when it comes to applying a new kind of strategy or a new kind of activity or method, we must be realistic persons. We must be realistic professionals, and not always hope that we are going to do great or that our students will always love our kind of activities. We also have to be expectant and willing to confront the possible lack of interest of our students, right? And any other obstacle we could encounter or face in this way or during the lesson. I believe it's very important to keep in mind that our role as teachers is to be the facilitators for our students. We must be able to choose the correct or the suitable activities for our kind of audience. Of course, it means that we have to be capable of identifying what kind of audience we have. Because the teaching strategies or methods to be used in the class have to be very beneficial not only for us as students, but of course not only for us as teachers, but also for our students, right? They have to support them through the sometimes complicated learning process. And doing this homework was a very useful experience for me. It represents an opportunity to become a more analyzing person, to analyze more the possible situation that I could encounter as future teacher during the class. I mean, the effectiveness of the strategies to be used depends a lot on our teaching competences, but not only depends on us as teachers, but also depends on our students. And for For example, important points such as the age or the grade are very important aspects to take into account when we are going to apply a new strategy or a new method to teach a new lesson to our students, right? That was all for me. Thank you so much.
Hello, everyone. Well, I was listening to your opinions, and I think that this class, for example, and what we are learning in this class is really helpful for us, because right now we are learning how to be teachers, and all these topics that we are learning and all the works and activities that we are working on will really help us in our future class when we have to be the teacher instead of just a student. I was listening to Ada's opinion that she told us about her favorite activities, like knowing your students. I think that is very important to know, to understand your students, because if you don't understand your students, you want to be helpful for them, because if you don't understand them, how will you teach them? Because I think that when you understand the person, how will your opinion about the people and how you will be, your behavior with those people will be different if you know them, you understand them, instead of if you don't. So I think that that's a very important part of the activity, and and that we have to really take care of our students, because if we don't understand them, how will we teach them? How will we understand what they are what are their problems? And another thing that really liked me was the opinion of Heather, because she started talking about why teachers don't teach us or don't talk to us about these different strategies that we are learning right now, why they don't help us when we are kids. So she think about when she was a kid and when she was studying, and I think that maybe when we were kids and when we were children, our teachers didn't tell us the same as we right now that we want to be taught, because maybe in those times, and to say something, it was like another belief that people had, that maybe the student just don't want to need to learn English or another language, so they don't really care about what they were teaching them, or maybe they don't really like the language, and it was just another class. So that's why they didn't start to use different strategies with their students. So I think that that's the deal, that's the answer of Heather's question, that teachers don't used to teach us those new strategies when we were kids, because they believe that we won't need them, that it wasn't helpful for us. So that's my comment.
Hey guys, I would like to go back to some of the things you said at the beginning. For example, all of the community factors and the school factors, because in our country, sadly, there is a lot to be done and there is a lot to be improved, not only in the system itself, but even on the installations or the properties where in the places where we give classes. Most of the time, there's not even a place for us to give a class. So it is very important to to take that into account, as Nelson and Mauricio said, that most of the public schools do not have even the resources, the technology that are required for us to compete in this new world, because after all, we live in a society where technology is very important and it's the top priority for us to know. Sadly, we don't have any of that, so it is very important to improve some skills. What skills? The ones that we are lacking in our educational system. So that would be analysis, that would be reading comprehension, reading, getting students to read in the first place, synthesis, communication. Some students can even talk correctly or even express their ideas. So that if we can't have, although it is important to take into account the external factors of our classrooms and students and schools and whatever, it is important to work with what we have and not dwell with what we don't have. So, as I said and as I repeat, it is very important to work on that skill in order not to be left behind at all. And something that caught my attention that many of you mentioned was that we must explain to students how learning a language, in our case, learning a language is important to our everyday life, because that helps the student understand why is it useful, why we can do it, why it should be important for them to really learn about the language and not only see it as another class. And another thing is the activities and the methods we use in order to give our topics and give our classes. That is very important as well. Because imagine if we take into account all the factors that we do not have, or the factors that we are lacking, like infrastructure, like no technology, low income, no resources, even in public schools. If we take into another factor that us teachers are not doing our job correctly, this would make the situation work. So we must ensure, even if our conditions are not the best, we must ensure that we are doing our jobs correctly, not only by choosing the right activities, not only by preparing ourselves in order to give a class, but also to motivate and keep students motivated in order to be successful with every limitations that we have, be successful as much as we can. So that is my point of view, and thank you guys.
Hey everyone, according to all of your opinions, what I can add to the discussion is that recognizing individual differences of the learners is a basic concept when we begin to teach. Why? Because it is a fundamental assumption of strategic teaching and learning. When we learn how to draw a line and learn the difference between what we choose to teach in the classroom, should also be an interaction and not just directly to the point, but we must make everything comfortable. When I talk about variables, what I'm trying to say is that I'm referring to the variables of learning, achievement, and of instructions. And according to this, we will see a difference when it comes to the learning and teaching strategies that we will apply to our students. That's why most of all, the class should be an interaction. And what I can add to my comments is that students come from different backgrounds and they have had different experiences and also have different abilities, which means that it's not only important that we can apply good strategies, but also the content needs to be.
Hello, I'm Ruben, and I want to give my opinion about this activity or this topic. That it was really interesting because it's something that we cannot think twice by ourselves because we are learning. We are still learning, and it's something interesting when we talk about strategies that we need to incorporate in our classroom. Because in this case, I'm a agree with Heather. She was saying that some teachers don't talk about this topic, or they don't talk about the strategies that the students can use in the long term that they are going to be in the program, depending which program. But I think that it's correct what Heather said, because many teachers they just said, okay, remember that children can learn faster than you. Okay, you're adults and you have to look for another way to learn. You have a hard brain, because I have heard that you have a hard brain and you need to facilitate that. Okay, for that reason you need to be hard, you need to put more effort in what you're studying. And I was like, okay, it's correct. It's something hard when we as adults want to learn another language, but that doesn't mean that we cannot look for other strategies that can help us, or that we by ourselves need to look for those strategies, because we have one facilitator in this case. And I remember that I heard those words when I have in the first levels of the program, and now that I'm here in this level, I think that it was something really dumb, because we are going to be facilitator. Well, in this case, I'm a facilitator, and I think that I don't want to repeat the mistakes that some of my teachers made. And if we look for strategies, we are trying to give a better education. In this case, we are trying to give a better comprehension of one determined topic. We as teachers can say, okay, I'm going to apply this activity, and I think that it's going to work with all my students. So guys, I have this activity for you. Please, if you have any question, if you have any doubt, please ask me. Okay, but when some students go to ask, they are like, okay, didn't you heard the instructions, or didn't you understand, you didn't tell me, or what happened? So it's like they are not facilitators, they're just applying the activity, and they didn't give a strategy. Remember that not all students have the same level, not all the students have the same capacity, the same thoughts. And in this case, I cannot say that I can learn the same way as other students can learn, or as other classmates in this case can learn. I can have some difficulties, or I can have some advantages that my classmates cannot have. So if we look for strategies, we are trying to apply the same activity, but we are trying to look for that strategy in order to give the same education, in order to give the same meaningful class. That means that if I'm giving that topic, or if that I write the moment to apply the activity, I'm not giving anything. Okay, I'm just giving an activity, and they are not. Maybe they are going to know what they are going to do, or they are not going to do. They are not going to know. Okay, so I think that we now, or when some people know, I cannot generalize with my classmates, with my teachers, but some of them always criticize how the education is worked every day. Okay, and when I start thinking we are doing nothing to improve that. So if we want to give a better education, first we need to change that. We don't need to wait for other people to change that history. We don't need other people to change what we want to change. Okay, so we need to take the credits of that, or we need to take advantage of that. So in this case, I really liked the topic. The strategies is something important that I think that we need to apply. We as teachers, okay, and well, in this case, as students that we're going to become teachers, and we need to dig a little deeper into this topic. So this was our opinions. These were our comments. And if you want to give any opinion, if you want to give any comment, we are going to be pleasured of knowing that. Okay, we are here just to help each other, and I hope you can enjoy this video. Okay, anything, any doubt or any comment, we are going to receive it. So have a nice day, and thank you very much.